If you try to conduct any kind of leadership without knowing your situation or your position, you will face difficulties to conduct your task, whatever your task might be. And I'm aware of all those discussions. Yes, it is possible to lead without knowledge, but even those very experienced ones who have tried that one in a critical situation, they don't recommend it. So we note for ourselves, number one, be aware of your current situation. And number two, know where you're going to. There is a famous quote from Sunzus, The Art of War, which is so often repeated and prominent that I actually hesitate to show it here, but it is so true, so it has to come. So here's a quote from Sun Tzu. If you know the enemy and know yourself, you need not fear the result of 100 battles. I'm sure you have heard it before. This quote actually values information and knowledge, and so do we here. However, what I want to discuss is most people relate leadership to military operations. That might be because of people like a guy called himself Jack Tramiel, founder of Commodore International, making fantastic products like the legendary Commodore 64 home computer, which influenced an entire generation in their understanding of computers. Me as well, by the way. Later, he became CEO of a company called Atari. Well, his most famous motto was, in the 80s, business is war. With all the sincere respect to the remarkable life of Jack Tramiel, I do disagree with that motto, business is war. If you think leadership, the picture of a skipper on a boat on high sea might be more suitable. Now, however, leadership is definitely about acting in a not always cooperative environment. Worst case, that non-cooperative environment is an enemy actively working against you. And that is why military has such a treasure of tools and concepts, because fighting a war is basically about achieving something and having a contrary, rational mind working actively against you. And something else. A fight or a war is not won due to the better weapons or the more heroic fighters. A military conflict is won by better information, better organization, and better cooperation among the people next to each other. Any military officer will confirm that. There's another quote I would like to share, and I like it a little bit more, from Bruce D. Henderson, founder of the famous Boston Consulting Group. The quote is about strategy development. Well, strategy development and leadership have a lot in common, and as those two words constantly change their appearance and meaning in the course of the academic discussions, I allow myself to set them equal for our purposes here. So here's a quote from Bruce D. Henderson. The basic requirements for strategy development are a critical mass of knowledge, an ability to integrate all of this knowledge and examine it as an interactive dynamic system, the skill at system analysis sufficient to understand sensitivity, time lags, immediate and future possibilities and consequences, the imagination and logic to choose between specific alternatives, resource control beyond immediate needs, and the will to forego current benefits in order to invest in the future potential. That is a great quote. I believe you could analyze every single line of that quote and dedicate a 1-hour speech to every individual topic of that list. Just looking at the language used in that quote, you can tell was made at a time when we all believed in mainframe computers and when you could study things like operations research and get a master in disciplines like network analysis. In other words, when that sentence was written down, people were very much in love with complexity. To me, the most prominent line in that quote is actually one that does not draw attention at first sight. I'm talking about the resource control beyond immediate needs. If you want to take notes, if you want to write something down, it is the sentence: in order to lead, you need resource control beyond immediate needs. Well, this entire chapter is about resources and about knowledge. And I do distinguish 3 stages about it. And believe it or not, it is a mission next to impossible to get these stages into the brains of the most people. But it is important and it's helpful to have them. So here we go. Stage 1 is the now. We have not done anything yet, but we are busy doing something, and this something does require resources. Probably we run some sort of business, and even without brilliant new intentions, the new business will consume for sure resources. Now, how is our current reality described? What do we need to cover today's life? People, time, money, assets. Do we need resource for risks occurring in our daily life? Things like that. And then next is stage 2, the bridge, also known as the investment, to get to the new reality. Most likely, for a certain time at least, this investment comes on top of everything we said about stage 1. And then finally, there's stage 3, the achievement. And as Carl von Clausewitz already described it almost 250 years ago, every achievement does change reality. And the world does not stop because you have achieved. It is more likely that life is a chain of achievement. Well, that sounds great, but protecting all your achievements, holding ground, that has additional costs. I mean, I learned the last one the hard way when I was 19 years old. I invested, that would be stage 2 in our world, 2,000 Deutsche Mark into my first car, a 1978 Ford Fiesta 1.1 Sports in silver with yellow stripes. The 2,000 Deutsche Mark were gone, but I didn't think of stage 3 like gas, insurance, tax, and as the transition was quite sensitive to an unexperienced driver like I was, I needed a set of new tires pretty soon. Well, every of these 3 stages, what you see here, requires resources, has risk, and a certain lifetime. And these 3 stages do influence each other. So what we are trying to do, and this is the election, try a structured discussion on these 3 stages, and you will be ahead of many other people out there. Try to collect as much information as possible and work with them, sort them, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3. Collecting information is not a sign of a negative mindset, although, and I warn you, I'm sure you will experience that one. People around you will try to make you feel bad about yourself because of your effort of clarifying the situation. But it is your job to ask questions others don't ask. And out of my experience, do not believe for a second that the people around you know everything. Likelihood is high, they simply don't dare to ask. So it makes you special to ask questions. Well, how about that?